5 trucks that GMC built and then erased from history. One of them won a drag race against a Ferrari. One of them carried supplies across open water at Normandy. One of them is Clint Eastwood's daily driver. One of them was 50 years ahead of its time. And one costs half the price of the Chevy version because nobody knows it exists. In Sterling Heights, Michigan, there's a building called the GM Heritage Center. Most people don't know it exists. It's not open to the public. No walk-in tours, no gift shop. Inside, GM stores historically significant vehicles, prototypes, one-offs, production models that change the industry. Some of them have never been photographed publicly. Some of them represent engineering decisions that GM made, celebrated briefly, and then quietly moved on from. 5 of those decisions involve GMC. 5 vehicles that were either canceled too early, produced in numbers so small they vanished, or so completely overshadowed by their Chevrolet siblings that even lifelong GMC owners have no idea they ever existed. Let's start with the one hiding in plain sight on the used market right now. Number 5, the GMC Sprint and the GMC Caballero. 1971 through 1987. Everybody knows the Chevrolet El Camino, the car-truck hybrid, the muscle car with a bed. It's in movies, on t-shirts, in every classic car conversation in America. Now, ask that same person about the GMC version. Blank stare every time. I've tested this at car shows. I've asked lifelong GM guys. Nobody knows. The Sprint came first, 1971 through 1977, built on the Chevelle platform. Same body, same powertrain options, same chassis. GMC badges instead of Chevrolet. In 1978, GM renamed it the Caballero and continued production through 1987. Same concept, same capability, same platform as the El Camino throughout. You could park them side by side, and most people couldn't tell you which one was the Chevy and which one was the GMC without reading the badges. Here's why nobody knows about it. Chevrolet got the marketing budget, Chevrolet got the dealership volume, Chevrolet got the cultural moment, the songs, the movie appearances, the poster on the garage wall. GMC got the same truck with different badges and a fraction of the production numbers. The Caballero was always rarer. It was always the quieter sibling, and because of that, it's always been cheaper. Current market, clean Caballeros sell for $3,300 to $32,000 depending on condition and year. Average around $13,000 to $14,000. Comparable El Caminos in similar condition, significantly more. The premium exists purely because of name recognition, not engineering. The Caballero has the same drivetrain, the same frame, the same capability. It just doesn't have the name. Here's the thing. For a buyer who wants the car-truck experience without paying the El Camino tax, the Caballero is the goldmine sitting on the used market that nobody searches for. Same truck, less money, because nobody knows GMC made one. The same truck as the El Camino, half the price, because nobody knows GMC made one. But this next hidden GMC didn't just go unnoticed. It helped change the course of human history, and GMC never gets credit for it. Number 4. The GMC DUKW, pronounced Duck, built during World War II. An amphibious military vehicle, drives on land, floats and drives through open water. Based on the GMCC CWK 2.5-ton truck platform, the workhorse of the Allied military supply chain, with a welded watertight steel hull added around it. 6 wheels on land, a propeller and rudder in water, transitions from road to water and back without stopping. GMC built over 14,000 of them at the Pontiac, Michigan plant. Over 21,000 were produced total across all facilities. They were used at the D-Day beach landings at Normandy, carrying ammunition, supplies, and wounded soldiers between ships offshore and the beach under fire. They were used extensively across the Pacific Theater, island-hopping campaigns where supplies had to move from ship to shore across coral reefs in open water that no conventional truck could cross. Stay with me here. When people think of World War II vehicles, they think Jeep, Sherman tank, B-17 bomber. Nobody thinks GMC. But GMC built the vehicle that solved one of the most critical logistical problems of the war: how to get supplies from ships to beaches without a functioning port. Before the DUKW, that required capturing a port first. The DUKW made ports optional. Supplies went straight from ship to shore, across open water, up the beach and onto the road, in one vehicle, in one trip, without stopping. Think about that for a second. The brand that makes your Sierra, the same company, the same factory town, built a vehicle that made the Normandy invasion logistically possible, Without the DUKW, every round of ammunition, every medical supply, every gallon of fuel had to wait for a captured port. With the DUKW, it went straight from ship to sand. That changed the timeline of the war. Dwight Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of Allied forces in Europe, listed the DUKW among the most critical pieces of equipment that won the war. Not a passing comment. In his official assessment of equipment importance, a GMC truck from Pontiac, Michigan was essential to winning the largest conflict in human history. Some DUKWs still run today. Military museums maintain operational examples. Duck boat tours in several American cities use modernized versions of the original design. You've probably seen them without realizing you were looking at GMC's most important truck. GMC helped win World War II, and not a single person buying a Sierra today knows it. Drop a comment. Which of these 5 did you not know existed? Subscribe for more every week. Let's keep going. Now, number 3 wasn't built for war. It was built for the open road, and it was 50 years ahead of everything else on it. Number 3, the GMC motorhome, 1973 through 1978. In 1973, every motorhome on the road was the same basic idea: a truck chassis with a boxy aluminum house bolted on top. Rear-wheel drive, high center of gravity, drove like what it was. A truck pretending to be a living room. They swayed in crosswinds. They wallowed through corners. They exhausted the driver after 4 hours on the interstate. That was the standard. That was what motorhome meant. GMC looked at that and built something completely different. Front-wheel drive. Almost unheard of for a vehicle this size and weight. Independent front suspension, air suspension in the rear. A low, wide stance that gave it a center of gravity closer to a passenger car than a conventional motorhome. And a body designed by GM's styling studio, the same team that designed Corvettes and Cadillacs. Rounded, streamlined, aerodynamic in a way that nothing else on the road could match. It looked like it came from the future. In 1973, the drivetrain was based on the Oldsmobile Toronado front-wheel drive system, a 455 V8, driving the front wheels through a turbo-hydromatic transmission. That gave GM something no other motorhome manufacturer had: a completely flat floor from front to back, no driveshaft tunnel, no rear axle hump. The interior was open, level, and usable in ways that conventional motorhomes couldn't match. Only 12,921 were built across 5 production years. GM stopped because the margins were too thin. Each motorhome required hand finishing and specialized labor that didn't scale to volume production. GM was a volume manufacturer. The motorhome was a craft product wearing a GM badge. The math didn't work. I'm not done yet. GM never made another one. No successor, no second generation, no evolution of the concept. They built what many consider the greatest motorhome ever manufactured, and then walked away from the market entirely. No explanation, no farewell, just silence. Current market. Restored examples sell for $30,000 to over $80,000. Prices have tripled in the last decade as collectors and enthusiasts recognize what they have. There are dedicated GMC motorhome clubs, annual cross-country rallies, and a full aftermarket support network of specialists keeping these machines alive and on the road 50 years after the last one left the factory. The community that formed around this vehicle is one of the most dedicated in the automotive world. These owners don't just maintain their motorhomes, they restore them to better than factory condition, modify them with modern drivetrains and interiors, and drive them across the country in caravans. It's a community that GM accidentally created and then abandoned. The owners kept it alive without GM's help for half a century. GM built the greatest motorhome ever made, then they stopped, and 50 years later, people are still driving them. Number 2, the GMC Typhoon, 1992 and 1993. Picture a 1992 GMC Jimmy, a mid-size SUV, the kind of truck you'd see in every school parking lot, every grocery store lot, every suburban driveway in America. Completely forgettable, completely ordinary, the vehicle equivalent of beige wallpaper. Now put a turbocharged 4.3 V6 under the hood, 280 horsepower, 360 pound-feet of torque, all-wheel drive with a Borg-Warner transfer case, a Mitsubishi turbocharger feeding an intercooled intake system, 0 to 60 in 5.3 to 6 seconds. In 1992, that was absurd. Most sports cars couldn't touch that number. A Mustang GT that year did 0 to 60 in 6.1. A Camaro Z28 did 5.7. The Typhoon, a family SUV that looked like it should be hauling groceries, was faster than both of them. It blended into every parking lot in America. But underneath, was a turbocharged, intercooled, all-wheel drive weapon that would embarrass cars costing 3 times as much off the line. GM built 4,697 of them across 2 model years, 2497 and 92, 2293, and then killed it. The margins weren't there. The Typhoon cost too much to build relative to what dealers could charge. GM looked at the math, looked at the truck, and said no. Now here's the part that elevates this from interesting to legendary. Clint Eastwood daily drives a GMC Typhoon. The man who played Dirty Harry, the director of Unforgiven, Million Dollar Baby, American Sniper. A man who can buy any vehicle on earth, any Ferrari, any Lamborghini, any custom-built anything, chooses a 1993 GMC Typhoon as his daily driver. He talked about it on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy asked him what he drives. Eastwood said, a GMC Typhoon. Turbocharged V6, it's fast. He's been photographed in it at his Malpaso production studios. He's owned multiple Typhoons over the years, at least 3 that have been documented. A red 1992 and 2 green 1993s. It's not a collector piece sitting in a garage. It's the truck he drives to work. Let me be clear about what that means. The most iconic actor of his generation, a man synonymous with American toughness, chose a GMC that 99% of Americans have never heard of. That tells you everything about this truck and everything about what GM threw away. Current market, $25,000 to $66,000 for standard examples, and at a Make-Em auction in March 2025, a Typhoon with 688 original miles sold for $226,000. Values have exploded in the last 5 years as collectors realize how few exist and how many were lost to rust, neglect, and owners who didn't know what they had. Dirty Harry can buy any car in the world. He daily drives a GMC Typhoon, and GM killed it after 2 years. And number 1, the truck that made automotive history, and the one GM erased the fastest. Number 1, the GMC Cyclone, 1991, 1 year. That's all it got. 2,995 units. Every single one. Black exterior, gray interior, no options, no color choices, no variations. GM built it as a factory weapon and dressed it in a uniform. Turbocharged 4.3 V6, the same family as the Typhoon, but tuned for the lighter truck platform. 280 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque, all-wheel drive, Mitsubishi turbocharger, Garrett intercooler, 0 to 60 in the low 5-second range. Car and driver documented 5.3 seconds in their test. In 1991, that number put the Cyclone in the same conversation as Corvettes, Porsches, and Ferraris, except the Cyclone was a pickup truck with a bed that you could haul lumber in. It sat in dealer showrooms next to base model Sonomas, and nobody walking by had any idea what they were looking at. Here's the thing, car and driver didn't just test it, they raced it. In one of the most famous comparison tests in automotive journalism history, they lined up a GMC Cyclone against a Ferrari 348 TS, a pickup truck against a mid-engine Italian sports car costing 4 times as much. The Cyclone ran 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. The Ferrari, 5.8. The Cyclone won. Let me say that again. A GMC pickup truck beat a Ferrari in a drag race. Documented, published, filmed. In the pages of one of the most respected automotive magazines in the world. A vehicle designed to haul materials and pull trailers outran a vehicle designed by Ferrari's finest engineers in Maranello, Italy. That's not folklore, that's print. The quarter mile, 13.4 seconds at 98 miles per hour. For a truck in 1991, with technology that was, by today's standards, agricultural compared to modern turbo systems. No launch control, no traction management computers, just boost, grip, and a driver who pointed it straight. GM produced the Cyclone for exactly 1 year, 2,995 units. Then they canceled it. Production costs were too high relative to volume. The turbo system, the all-wheel drive, the intercooler, every component was expensive to source and assemble. GM was a volume manufacturer, and the Cyclone was a low-volume masterpiece. The math didn't work, but the engineering was perfect. GM had the fastest production truck in the world, and they said no thanks. 1 year, done. Move on. Current market, $30,000 to over $130,000 depending on mileage and condition. Low mileage examples are approaching 6 figures at major auctions. Values have more than doubled in 5 years. The truck that GM abandoned is now worth more than most new Sierras on the lot. Every Cyclone that exists today is a survivor. Of the 2,995 built, many were crashed, rusted, modified beyond recognition, or simply lost to time. The ones that remain are some of the most sought-after GMC vehicles ever made, because nothing else in GMC's history carries the same story. A pickup truck that beat a Ferrari, built for 1 year, all black, no options, no apologies. GM built a truck that beat a Ferrari. Then they locked it away and pretended it never happened. That's number 1. 5 GMC trucks that GM built and then buried. The Sprint they let Chevrolet take credit for. The Duck they never told anyone about. The motorhome they abandoned after 5 years. The Typhoon that Clint Eastwood still drives and GM killed after 2. And the Cyclone, the truck that beat a Ferrari and got exactly 1 year to prove it existed. GM has a history of building extraordinary things and then walking away from them. The vehicles in this video aren't just hidden, they're proof that GMC has always been more than the brand that makes Sierras and Yukons. They built war machines, engineering marvels, and the fastest production truck in history. Then they put them in a vault and moved on. If you want to see the modifications GM doesn't want on the trucks they still make, watch 5 banned GMC modifications that actually work. And for the engines GM hopes you never find out about, watch 3 cheap GMC engines everyone ignores. Gold mines. 5 trucks, all real, all GMC, and all buried by the company that built them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.